Interested in learning about wine, but not sure where to start? You're in the right place. Welcome to the Cork and Fizz Guide to Wine podcast. I'm your host, Haley Bowman, and I'm so glad you're here. I'm a wine enthusiast turned wine educator and founder of the Seattle-based wine tasting business, Cork and Fizz. It is my goal to build your confidence in wine by making it approachable and lots of fun. You can expect to learn everything from how to describe your favorite wine to what to pair with dinner tonight, and so much more. Whether you're a casual wine sipper or a total cork dork like myself, this podcast is for you. So grab yourself a glass and let's dive in. Hello and welcome back to the Cork and Fizz Guide to Wine podcast. Today, you'll be listening to part 2 of my interview with Andrew Gerow. If you haven't heard part 1, I highly recommend pause this episode, go listen to episode 166 first. We'll be here when you get back. Now, as a reminder, Andrew is the co-founder and general manager of Tirriddis, a traditional method sparkling winery out of Prosser, Washington. He studied viticulture and enology at Washington State University. He earned the Wine Spectator Student of the Year scholarship in 2020 and spent his time there working every corner of the industry: vineyards, wineries, and tasting rooms. This guy, he knows his stuff when it comes to wine. Now, when the pandemic shelved his plans to work harvests abroad, he and 2 of his classmates, Gabriel and Matthew, founded Tirriddis at just 20 years old. I'm just still blown away by this fact. Their focus is on making sparkling wines that are distinctly and unapologetically Washington. Now, I first met Andrew when he was a panelist for a seminar that I attended back in March during Taste Washington. He just said a lot of interesting things that I kept jotting down in my notebook, and I was like, yes, I need to talk to this guy about being on the podcast. These all sound like things that I think you as a listener are going to enjoy and are currently enjoying. Things like how they approach hospitality and experience like a brewery in their tasting room, why they're not trying to replicate champagne, but instead want to make sparkling wine that is unapologetically Washington, the importance of sugar and balancing your wine, and so much more. So let's dive in. When talking about sparkling, I feel like one of the things so I first met you at Taste Washington that I mentioned at a seminar, and I remember you talked about sweetness and how important that was in balance in sparkling wines. Because I feel like sweetness is a bit of a taboo subject in wine right now. There's just a lot of people that are like, oh, I don't like sweet wine. Give me something dry, no sweetness at all, no sugar. And then when it comes to sparkling, it's like, oh, the Brut Nature, no sugar added. I want, that's the kind of what's popular. But why is sweetness so important in a sparkling wine? What role does it play?
Balance. I think it's really funny that people put sugar as public enemy number 1 in wine, where they also, the people who are putting that taboo openly, eat sweet white bread. It's like we should be targeting the bread companies for putting sugar into their bread. There's things that deserve sugar and there are things that do not. Wine deserves sugar, particularly traditional method sparkling wine. Just because traditional method sparkling wine has so much acid. It's one of the few wines in the world where you can effectively create a balanced style with a bit of sugar. So just like cocktails, you go to a cocktail bar, chances are you're going to be drinking a lot of sugar if you're drinking cocktails, but you don't have that harsh association with it because it's cocktails. The public eye hasn't antagonized sugar in cocktails yet, but it's just this weird thing, but sparkling deserves a little bit of sugar to it. Not just because of balance, also complexity in the wine. Through a combination of the pressure and the acid, it actually caramelizes the sugars and lends to complexity in the wine. So a lot of that caramelized brioche profile is more commonly associated through science to the Maillard reaction from that relationship between the acid, pressure, and sugar. So it's incredibly important to the complexity of the wine and the drinkability of wine as well. I mean, all the time we have people come into our tasting room and they're like, oh, what's the driest wine that you've got? All of our wines drink dry, for sure. Our focus is balance, but I'll pour you our driest wine. And then I'll also pour, an extra dry style. And everybody's like, oh yeah, they're trying to debate 50-50% of the people are humble So some people are like, oh yeah, I like the sweeter wine better. And then sometimes there's the person who's like, oh, I like the dry wine better. And then you come back like 5 minutes later and the glass of the off dry one is empty and the glass of the dry one is full. And it's like there's proof in the pudding right there. Like
Yes.
it's not awesome drinking your enamel away. You know, it's nice to have balance in wine and have that drinkability. Just because like my goal, I don't want my wine to be just profound for just one glass. I want somebody to be like, oh, I want a second glass of that. I'm excited for that second glass. Like, I could arguably polish off a bottle of this easy. I don't want it to be like, oh, I've had my couple sips. I'm going to file that away for my memories and I'm never going to buy this bottle again.
Right, like, "Oh, that was so complex and so fascinating, and it was different," and when it's really not, and it's so frustrating because, like you said, those people coming in that are saying, like, "Give me your driest wine," I feel like it's marketing and it's the, like, what's out there right now that's encouraging them to do that because you feel like it is more like what is the thing where, like, liking a sweet wine makes you less of a wine person or makes like, you must know less about the wine world or something when it's like, you like what you like, and sugar is an important component in wine, and like you said, even more important in a sparkling wine.
Yeah, it's just one of those things that there's always been a big discrepancy between producers and consumers. There's never really been the opportunity for education, and that's totally okay. I'm the first person to say there's two kinds of wines in the world, wines you like and wines you don't. Doesn't need to be more complicated than that. But it should be important that people know sugar can be okay in wine, and then also sulfur can be good in wine. Like those are two things that are public enemy number ones to a random person for no reason when they eat that white bread with a ton of sugar and then eat dried fruit or french fries with like 10,000 times the amount of sulfur in. So it's just funny and that's okay. I can't give any harm or foul to that consumer that thinks that way because they're miseducated from somebody else's malice. And that's what we're here for, is we're happy to have that conversation and share that with people. And then they're
Yeah.
like, oh, like, I actually really like this wine. And it's like, oh, cool. Because you've been drinking way too dry of wines and that's why you didn't like it. So,
Right? You had this idea that you had to like that when really, like, this is perfectly fine and this is great. You should drink what you like.
exactly. Yeah. Drink what you like. And everybody in the wine industry right now, like, screaming, please help us. Younger people aren't drinking wine. It's like, well, you didn't do yourself any favors. And there's all these people who are interested in trying it, but you have not like taken a step down for their taste. Accept a little humility, listen to the consumer, and just make something that they want.
Yeah. Just a quick reminder, you are not on my mailing list yet. What are you waiting for? I would love for you to join. When you do, you'll get a free shopping guide that has 15 of my favorite wines under $15. Head to corkandfizz.com, scroll down to the bottom, and there'll be a little section where you can join the mailing list. I send out a weekly newsletter filled with wine tips, recommendations, special offers, and so much more. Now, let's get back to the show. And I feel like that ties into another comment that you made on the seminar that like I definitely had to hit during this interview of the idea that kind of approaching the consumer and people coming in. So in the tasting room and how you talk to people and how you present your wine, almost approaching it like a brewery. I want to make sure I don't misquote you. Talk to us about what you mean by that.
Yeah. I mean, in opening up our tasting room, like we've had the experience of wine tasting all over. Wine tasting all over and just visiting different concepts from wine bars to restaurants to breweries, everything. What we loved was more of those community areas where people could come by, grab a glass of wine. I don't love going to a winery and then all of a sudden you have this big mat in front of you, 50 different tasting notes. Like you feel like you're sitting on pins and needles. And that's not what we wanted. We wanted to really approach it with providing that hospitality and experience of more a brewery or a community area where, sure, you're more than welcome to come by and do a tasting. We're actually more excited for that than anything. We love to educate, give you that tasting, really dive into the nitty gritty of the wines. But if that's not your speed, that's totally okay because we also have just a really beautiful space that's comfortable, good music, awesome staff that is happy to get you just a glass of wine and make sure that you're all taken care of. You know, Anybody can go home and drink for much cheaper than they can going to a winery. So We want to make sure that we're providing an experience that's more memorable and luxurious. But at the same time, like, what does luxurious mean? What does enjoyable mean? As long as people are comfortable in the space, enjoying themselves and surrounded by company that they love and adore, that's all we care about. So making sure that we're able to perform and provide a great experience for that late consumer that just wants a glass of wine and to be in the aesthetic of a winery and hang out with their friends playing cards, all the way up to that connoisseur who wants to know the vineyard selections or the time entourage. But we need to be able to perform on all those levels. And that's really important to us.
Yeah. Well, how do you find, or I guess like, I'm trying to think about like, this sounds perfect. This is exactly what I want a tasting room to be like. In terms of the people working in your tasting room, how do you make sure that you can create that approachable environment? And, how do they approach the consumer so that you can do that while also being educated and knowing everything that they know about the wine so that if someone, wine dork like me walks in and asks all the questions, they can answer them for me?
Yeah. I mean, I think everybody in the service, or I guess anybody that has ever dealt with hiring knows it sucks. Hiring is guessing, firing is knowing kind of thing. So it's really difficult, but we're really proud to have our crew. We've got 6 people, the 3 of us who started Tirriddis in addition to 3 others. And it's just, it's personality focused. People need to love to educate themselves to be able to educate others. So that's really important as well. I mean, there's just common personality traits. And our team is just really personable people. We're all highly educated. Out of the 6 of us, 5 of us have full 4-year bachelor degrees in viticulture and enology. The other has a full 4-year degree in biology. So we're all very educated people, and we're all also very personable. Like we are more stoked about like we're not more stoked about anything rather than like just sharing our bubbles with people and our space. So it's hard. It's hard finding the right people for the concept, but you can't make the sacrifices. You have to do what it takes. And if you can't find the people, maybe alter the program slightly to accommodate what you're able to have with your infrastructure and your people. But the main thing is you just have to hire the right people. The team is what builds it. And, if you don't want to do a job, you have to find somebody that can do it for you. Or if you're getting too busy, you need to find somebody that can do that job for you. So just feeling confident. If you don't feel confident with your people, you can't grow. So I feel confident.
Yeah. I really like that. So the more I think about going back to like the idea of like similar to a brewery, right? And like how you're replicating that. And because it really came to mind of me with like, I just had a kid and we're in this PEPS group with it's a parents and baby group. And I feel like when we think about where do we want to meet up, a brewery is somehow more approachable than a winery
Yeah,
automatically. Like it's more one, it's kid friendly, which I understand not all wineries are going to be kid friendly. And some people appreciate that because they don't want that. But for
right,
us, that was the first thing. And I don't drink beer very much, but I still feel totally comfortable going to a brewery. I might ask a question or ask for a recommendation, or they're going to have something else other than the beer
right,
for me to drink. And I wonder, like, to me at least, that's kind of like one of those things that I would love to see more wineries doing of making a space where like large groups could go, even if not everybody is quote unquote a wine person.
right. No, it's so important. And just the one thing is I am who I am, right? I don't have that all encompassing perspective from everybody's viewpoint. But humility is such a strong tool, you know, from like recent mother or recent new mothers coming into the tasting room or recently new families. Like one thing is we had a dad bring in his newborn kid. We didn't have a baby changing station in the men's room. Guess what we have now? Because
Nice.
we asked like, hey, like, or he just mentioned it. And that's like every single opportunity interaction with a customer is an opportunity to better understand and accommodate other people. So, and then as simply as what you mentioned, going to a brewery and having alternatives. We're a winery and we've got beer. We've got a couple beers from a couple local brewers because sometimes there is a person in the group who doesn't like wine. So it's just those little things that you can do to accommodate. But every single interaction is an opportunity to learn and better your program. And that's something that we always try to do is ask questions and do what we can. And yeah,
Yeah, I think that's so important. I mean, it's making me think about like what you talked about too, while they're talking about nowadays, like, oh, please, like, people aren't drinking enough wine or, the younger generations aren't interested. It's like we need to hear what they're saying. Like, if they're saying, like, I think you mentioned during the seminar, your Washington blend at one point was a Brut Nature. You had very little sugar on it and then changed it based off hearing from your consumers and that, oh, actually, we do like it to be a little bit of sweetness, a little more balance in there. And then just like the little things, like you said, we heard someone say, there's not a changing room. We need to change that to make sure that our space, and then also with respect to the wine, instead of hearing people say they don't like this or they don't like that, you don't always have to make a change for it, but hearing it and being willing to say, maybe we do need to make a change, or maybe we could do something a little different to meet general palate or more people's palate instead of just your own, the maker.
100%. I think every single winemaker would benefit from working a tasting room. Like, you don't
Yeah.
need to do it every day, but every single winemaker will benefit from working in the tasting room at least a couple hours a week or, a day a month. But just getting that feedback on the wines, it breaks down your ego and reminds you why you're making the wine. You're making it for
Yeah.
people. Like, I don't make 10,000 cases of wine to drink myself. I'd be long dead. I make it to share with people. And that's what excites me the most is when people have that aha moment where it complements the situation that they're in. And it's like, we are working our hardest to make sure that wine is best for that situation. And you're spot on. I mean, all of our wines when we started were Brut Mature. First off, because we didn't have the equipment.
Fair.
And we were admittedly maybe lazy to do it pipette by pipette. But as we continued to grow, we got access to the equipment and we've very much been able to dial in our wines, like the Washington blend going from Brut Mature to Brut. And now it's actually extra dry, 14 grams per liter, just 1 gram per liter north of the Brut spectrum. But that's just because that's what people want. When I described the wine as touting accessible and approachable, that's everything about that wine. And just that little tad slight sweetness to it to balance out the acid just makes it that much better for so many people.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. Okay. Well, we have one last question before what I call my speed round. Speed round isn't like buzzer in real fast, but more like there might be lots of answers to this question, or you could ponder on it for a really long time. So just first thing that come to mind. But before we get to that, what's next for Tirriddis? Do you have any short term or long term goals? Wait, I know you think this is an ad, but it's not. So don't hit skip. I have a small favor to ask. Here's the truth. I will never charge you to listen to this show, but every episode takes time and money to create. So if this podcast has helped you pick a better bottle, learn something new, or just kept you company, would you consider becoming a paid subscriber? You can show your support for just $3, $5, $8, or $10 a month. To say thanks, every single supporter gets a shout out on the next episode I record. And if you choose the $10 tier, you actually get to pick a future episode topic. Setting up a subscription is a great way to show your love for the show. Just click the link in the description right now. Thank you for listening, supporting, and being part of my wine-loving community. Now let's get back to the show.
Oh, to put into visualization, have you ever seen like the Sherman-Williams logo of the paint bucket pouring over the world?
Oh, yes.
I just want to tear this bottle pouring over the world. I want to be able to get our bottles to people all around, to give them that vacation in a bottle, inspire them to, in the next couple of years, plan that vacation out to Washington State. So I really want to be able to continue to expand Tirriddis outside of Washington. So people around the United States and the world have the opportunity to see what makes Washington so special, especially through the lens of traditional method sparkling wines. So that's really my goal. I don't think there's necessarily a marker of that being achieved, but we have our tasting room in Prosser right now. Love where we're at. Maybe another tasting room on the west side of the state, but ultimately just continuing to grow Tirriddis so people can experience what makes Washington sparkling and Washington wines so special.
Yeah, I love it. In terms of, I know if people can try it when they come out and taste if they come out to Washington. And so think about going to the Tri-Cities to Prosser to taste wine in Washington. Would it also be something where they could talk to their local wine shop and say, hey, I want to try to get this wine in? Would that be possible? I know distribution is hard, but at least having an interest is a good place to start.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, as simple as asking your local wine shop to bring it in. I mean, we have distribution all around Washington and a few other states as well. And if we don't have distribution in that state, chances are the wine shop might reach out to us, see if we're interested in expanding distribution. I mean, that's happened. Exhibit A would be Missouri. We have our wines in Missouri just because there's a person who came out to Washington, enjoyed our sparkling, went to their local wine shop. Wine shop connected with us. They connected us with the distributor, and now we're great friends with that person in that market. So, I mean, it's crazy what just one simple ask can do and how much it can change for multiple people. So that makes our world turn around for sure. If you are a little bit less patient, you can always order online. We do ship, and we have an awesome wine club. And going back to the trying to be as accessible as possible and being a winery for the modern contemporary drinker, in our wine club, all wine club members get free shipping on all orders. And not just
Wow.
free shipping, but shipments are fully customizable. And life is complicated. You know, you just got back from a trip, your credit card statement is high or whatnot. You can always skip a shipment without having to cancel your club membership. So we want to be as accommodating as possible for everyone.
Oh, I love that. Those are some great things to think about with a club. Both the free shipping, man, that feels good. And then yeah, like you said, not having to cancel if you just want to pass on one one
Yeah,
shipment.
exactly.
I love it. Okay, well, time for our speed round. Like I said, these are just questions that like you could have like multiple answers, so we're just going for like what's the first thing that comes to mind? So, first question is what is your favorite wine at the moment?
Ooh, ooh. I love an aged dessert Pinot Gris from Alsace in France.
Oh, that's a different one. I like that. Are you having it for dessert or are you having it like with cheese? What's the when you having this wine?
With dessert, with cheese, sitting on the patio. It's just a good one. That's the wine that I like dream of drinking on a nightly basis. If I'm talking about the wine that I'm like actively drinking that I'll have more often or seek out more often, I love like a simple Sancerre or
Mm-hmm.
Aligote from Bouzeron in Burgundy or something like that. Nice white. Or, you know, it's a massive wine, but Chateau Saint Michel's dry Riesling. Can find it
Ah,
anywhere.
yes.
Absolutely delicious. So I will give a plug to Chateau Saint Michel.
I love it. Okay. What is a go-to bottle of wine for you to bring to like a dinner party or to share with friends?
Ooh, to share with friends. I love bringing bottles that other friends make.
Yeah.
Like one of my friends, Chad Salachi, down in California at Rustique Vineyards. I love bringing his Pinot up just because, you know, there's not much Pinot in Washington. So it's fun to show my friends Pinot with my friends. But yeah, I just love drinking stuff that my friends make. It's really cool to be able to do. And it's just like that's what wine is relationship focused.
Yeah. No, I agree. Okay. How about what is a favorite wine region that you've ever visited?
Ooh. Well, admittedly, I haven't really been able to travel when I've been 21 years old.
Fair. I was realizing that when I was reading your intro and you're like, we found it when we were 20. I was like, wait a second. That was you. What? How did you do that?
Yeah, admittedly, haven't really been able to travel to wine regions as a 21-year-old. So I might pass.
That's okay. We'll flip it. The
No,
next question is the flipped and it'll make more sense for you. What's a wine region you would like to visit?
all sauce.
Nice. Yes. That is one I also want to go to. I went to France the end of last year it was 2 years ago with my husband. And we couldn't get to Alsace. We went to a few other spots, but that was definitely one that's still on the list.
And I'll follow up with the wild card of Tasmania.
Ooh, okay. All right.
Incredible bubbles coming out of Tasmania. So I think that would be a really important place to see really cutting edge New World sparkling.
Yeah. Okay. I've already asked you about a food pairing, but I'm going to ask you again for a different one. What is a favorite wine and food pairing that comes to mind when I just mentioned that?
Oh, one of my buddies, or two of my buddies, they have a empanada company called Oso Gordo. And it's this Pino style of empanada that's like ground beef, there's some olive, there's egg in there. Really weird to describe, but it is the most delicious empanada ever. And having that with our barrel fermented Blanc de Blanc is really good.
Barrel fermented Blanc de Blanc. It's just whatever you're eating, you got you can almost
Yep.
pair that with it. I love it.
Yep.
Okay. If I gave you $1,000 and you had to spend it on wine, how would you approach that? You don't necessarily have to tell us like what specific wines, but would you go for like some big bottles? Would you make up a couple cases of just lower cost wines? How would you approach spending $1,000 on wine?
20 $50 bottles. Yeah.
I like it. Would you go for variety? Are they all from one place?
Oh, I'd probably do like 1/6 pack of a wine that I'm just obsessed with, that I
Sure.
want to eat. But I mean, simply put, I'd probably break it into like, I'd maybe get 2 or 3 bottles of red, and then I'd probably get like 10 to 15 bottles of white wine, and then I would get the remainder in sparkling.
I love it. There are so many wine. It's so funny when I talk to people, and I'm more of a white wine person as well. And a lot of folks who are in the wine world that are drink a lot of wine. They're like, "Wow, you drink more white than red?" I'm like, "Oh, absolutely." Like, there's a time for a good red wine, but honestly, most of the time, I'm going to the wine fridge and I'm pulling out a white wine.
Oh, yes, absolutely me.
I love it. Okay, so last question, speed round and of the interview. What is a wine myth that bugs you the most?
Oh, I mean, easily antagonizing sugar.
Yeah, yeah.
Like that's a big point of frustration for me. But I don't know. I don't really let it frustrate me. I just like, hey, you might be wrong. Are you open to hearing why?
Sure, yeah, like, it's more like, what's one that you'll get on your soapbox and talk a little bit about?
Yeah. I mean, that's definitely one that I'll get on my soapbox and talk about, especially when like educated people in the wine industry are like, I need brut nature. Any dosage and the wine is ruined. And I'm immediately like, you're wrong. And the winemaker is lazy.
That's fair, and you're like, "'Cause I can say that because that was me at one point where we didn't have the equipment and we didn't wanna, go through and add sugar to all of the wine."
Yeah, absolutely. And, also wine is 100% subjective. So I'm a firm believer in that, but, everybody has the right to their own opinions.
No, I love it. Alright, well, we've made it to the end of the interview. Is there anything else you wanna share before we close out?
Not necessarily. I guess the only thing that I could ask is I hope that people get to try Tirriddis and remember that there's 3 things that are incredibly important to us, and just proper, original, and authentic sparkling, proper traditional method, original to Washington, and authentic to us who make it. That's really the important things for Tirriddis. And we just hope that you enjoy our expression of Washington traditional method.
Oh, what a perfect way to end it. Thank you so much for joining me, Andrew, and for talking about Tiramisu. And yes, very excited for folks to give it a try.
Yes, thank you so much. I really appreciate it, Haley.
Of course. Cheers. I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Cork and Fizz Guide to Wine podcast. If you'd like to learn more about Tirriddis and try their sparkling wines, you can check out their website, tirriddis.com, TIRRIDDIS.com, or be sure to request them at your local wine shop. Even if they don't have them right now, it's a great way to try to get them in more wine shops around the country. And of course, be sure to visit their tasting room if you're in Prosser in the Tri-Cities area of Washington. If you love this episode as much as I did, you know what I'm going to ask. If you have not rated this podcast yet, please just open up your phone, go on whatever app you're listening to this right now, and leave me a little rating. 5 stars would be great if you enjoyed it, especially if you made it this far. I feel like 5 stars is worthy. We are worthy of 5 stars if you've made it this far, but you decide. And of course, if you could leave a review, Apple Podcasts gives you an option for that. Please tell me what you like about the podcast. And if you know a wine lover, be sure to share it with them. If you'd like to go above and beyond in showing your support for this show and ultimately me, you can become a paid subscriber. Click the link in the show notes to become a monthly supporter. For $10 or less a month, you'll get a shout out in the next episode I record. Plus, if you choose the $10 a month option, you get to choose a topic for a future episode. Speaking of the next episode, in next week's episode, I'll be sharing value hacks for popular wine. So if you like wines like Sancerre, Burgundy, Napa Cabernet, but you don't like spending a lot of money on them, you're going to want to listen in. I'm going to share some of my favorite wines that are incredibly similar, if not maybe a little better than these wines, but do not cost an arm and a leg. Thanks again for listening, and if you want to learn more about wine, come follow me at Cork and Fizz on Instagram. Cheers!